Welcome to another episode of Women Investing in Women. Robin and I are excited to bring you another insightful conversation with another woman around the world who's making an impact and collaborating with women to help each other and lift each other up. You may ask, Robin and Cass, why do you do this? There is so much research to show that women are so good at helping one another. When women are in trouble, when it's in a personal life situation and women need help. But when it comes to professional and when it comes to thriving and when it comes to celebrating one another, women are not very good at it. We come from a culture ingrained in us about competition, and that creates a sense of scarcity at times. And having these conversations and bringing like-minded women who are driving the impact is helping us create an awareness for sense of abundance. There's enough for all of us. How do we bring us together and help each other and lift each other up and celebrate each other? And in that is our success. Our power and our success is in the way we show up collectively. Men have figured this out because the social norms have been different for them compared to us. And it's about time we stepped into our own power, our collective power, and embraced that and helped each other. You are going to love our guest today. And Robin, take it away.
Wonderful. I am so excited to welcome Mandy Moody onto our program. And I really just met Mandy fairly recently. I am part of the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. I am not a fraud examiner myself, but I work with a company specializing in fraud prevention, which is SafeChecks. And I'm the primary editor of Frank Abagnale's Fraud Bulletin. And through that, I'm associated with this organization. And Mandy recently began the women's group has been part of this for quite some time, but she recently started in part of the online blogging and chatting function, a Women in the Anti-Fraud Profession group. And I thought it'd be really terrific to have her on and talk about, what motivated you to start this group. And this group has actually been this community of women in fraud prevention has been around for quite some time. And so Mandy, tell us a little bit about yourself and what motivated you to start this, slice of the pie, Women in the Anti-Fraud Profession and the greater community.
Well, thanks for having me, Robin and Kaz. I really appreciate it. I jumped at the chance to do anything that had the title Women Investing in Women. That has been one of my mantras, since I started in the professional field. We launched the women's group officially at the ACFE, and the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners has been around since 1988, and it's a global organization, about 90,000 members. But within that group are about 30 to 35,000 women across the world who really, we saw something that was missing, which was that community of women coming together virtually and in person, and finding ways to help each other, finding ways to connect, finding ways to, most importantly, to network. And we started this group with that in mind. It began actually as a networking reception. I had the idea with two of my colleagues, Andy McNeil and Leslie Simpson, when I was fairly new at the ACFE in around 2012, 2013. And we noticed at our annual event that was in person in June that a lot of women were naturally congregating together to talk and network, but there wasn't a formal way to do it. And we also had tons of questions about, I'm new to this industry. What do I do? I need a mentor. How do I find a mentor when a lot of my superiors are men? How do I, how do I use the network I have to get to where I want to be? Who can I ask questions of? And so we started this networking reception, and it just grew from there. And we got so much positive feedback that we then started the online community. And I'll tell you where it really took off was during COVID. We switched everything online, as we all did. We went virtual, and we had one of our events, one of our largest conferences, and we had we used this gaming technology called Discord, because we didn't know how everyone was going to be able to talk to each other during the event. So we sucked it up and pretended to be 14 and used Discord. And we had this whole chat for our women's group. And it just blew up. That was where so many conversations were happening. People started asking for an event. People started asking for more. And so from there, we were able to get the community really going, which is the community you're a part of, Robin. And then also launch a women's summit that we host every year in New York, in person and virtually now. We just had that March 8th on International Women's Day. And so it really was, I'll say it really started with myself having these connections at work and these relationships that I formed with my colleagues, and us wanting more from what we were getting in our organization, and then seeing, oh my gosh, if we want more and we want this connection and we want this community, then let's see if other people want this as well. And that's where it all started. And now we're here today. We just had our women's summit, which was amazing, and really touched on, not just the softer skills, but also women in fraud and what women in investigations face, what women who are accountants, who are auditors, what that environment is like for them, and using that influence, using that allyship between other women and even other men to move their career forward.
It's interesting to hear you say that. I am an older woman comparatively in the world of finance. And when I got into finance, God, in 1991, and throughout my career internationally, I've been in the senior level executive role. There are not many women, right? It's a man's world. And for me, I've been fortunate. There have been enough men who were willing to support me and mentor me, but there are not enough women in the field. So as you enter the field and as you get involved through this organization for women, are you seeing women supporting each other beyond the networking, truly showing up to help each other, lift each other up, amplify each other's message, introduce one another to people who are impactful? What are you seeing, and how does that experience feel like for you?
So I see there are far more women at the lower levels or just entering their career who are very hungry for that type of mentorship, and half of them are seeking it out themselves. I'm the type of person where I was younger, I just went and found it myself. I was going to get it no matter what. If it was from a man or a woman, someone above me, someone alongside me, I was hungry, I was going to go do it. But then you see, some people who are new to the field who are just as hungry, but don't have that sort of, they're more reserved. They're more shy. They're waiting for someone to recognize them. They're waiting for someone to see something in them and mentor them. So really the push has been, here are the ways you can do it, and go about it and get that mentorship, move up, build those alliances, build those relationships for people who it might not come as naturally to. And women in general we have a tendency to, we will wait to be recognized. We will kill ourselves to get work done, to meet deadlines, to overperform, to overachieve, and we're waiting for someone to say, great job, I see you, I'm going to do this for you. Whereas men, it is a little different. It's the confidence is there, maybe without the performance sometimes. The confidence is there, and so there's less reliance on the work that you're doing, and you're just saying, oh, look, come, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to move up. And so we're really trying to encourage women to go for it and reach out. So I would say the majority are at that hungry stage. And then where we are seeing an uptick is at the later stage in the career. Whereas there's far less women and men who know, oh, I need to mentor somebody. I need to take somebody under my wing. I need to create a succession plan. That's something that we've been really big on at the ACFE is, well, what are we going to do when everybody retires? So I need to search out, not just as somebody new, but as somebody who's been there, like myself. Now I've been in the field for 20 years. Now I've got to take those steps and be active and not be a passive, member of the workforce, but an active member of the workforce where I'm doing, I'm reaching, I'm seeing, I'm having conversations, I'm building those relationships downward. So I think it's really teaching people how to step out of their comfort zone, and the value of building those relationships, of that networking. I think we all know that probably 3 or 4 of the jobs I've had is because of networking. That's how I got my job. That's how I moved up, was because of the work I did to network. That's how Robin and I met. That's how all these, I was telling Robin right before this, one of the women who's in her chapter who is looking for her next role, it's because of the community that she came to me and said, who can you introduce me to? And I would say that's a key element of this is, who do you know that I should know? And how can we do that for each other?
Yeah, I'm loving everything that you're saying here. I want to go back to your beginning comment where you talked about women acknowledging their accomplishments. They've worked hard, they've met deadlines, they've accomplished a project, and being able to toot your own horn, so to speak. I remember when I was graduating with my MBA many years ago, and from BYU. And one of the things they said is, you've been taught in church your whole life to be humble and all of this, but now you need to go out and you have to learn to toot your own horn. And so how do you think women, yourself and other people that you've observed, can acknowledge what they've been able to accomplish while still acknowledging, teammates and people who've helped them, but being able to toot your own horn in a way that still feels gracious, but definitely lets people know that you're the one who got it done?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I actually did a whole session on this at an event one time because it doesn't come as naturally to women to brag. And I say brag because that has such a poor connotation, but to be excited in your achievements, right? To be loud and to celebrate, which is how I've really tried to turn it, is when I share with people a project that we've worked on, for example, I'm celebrating it. I'm excited about it. And I've used that excitement to really toot my own horn and say, look at what my team did. And now I think, as being in a management position, it's really about my team and what my team accomplishes. And I think some of that shows up in excitement, in celebrating when big projects are finished, celebrating publicly, celebrating loudly. I keep a folder actually in my Outlook that's for successes only of myself and my team. And I put it on everyone's review at the end of the year, to remember and to reinforce, here's what everybody did. And I'll say too, what's been really helpful is, it's not just about saying well done or this was great or, you really knocked it out of the park. It's actually developing KPIs and measurement to celebrate as well, because that speaks in a different language, both to men and women, that those, the more, I don't want to say softer because any achievement is an achievement. You know, if you had a sold out event, if you hit revenue goals, if you discovered a fraud, you know, and took it to trial and you won, right? That's a success. But to really wrap it into your KPIs and your goals is a whole other way to transform that message. So I would say making sure that you're communicating not just anecdotally, but also with data is going to be really important when talking about how you did on something or how your team did on something.
That is such a brilliant way of connecting factual information with accomplishments. And I love where you're going with this, Mandy. Robin and I met, God, 15, 18 years ago at a networking event when she was representing Safe Checks and I was the CFO for the Chicago Teachers Pension Fund. And the rest is history. When we women get together, we figure out ways to collaborate if we are not afraid of lifting up another woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what you're saying reminds me of the fact that a lot of times women go to work, come home, take care of the family. And in networking, they surround themselves with other women. What if women started presenting at conferences, showing up as thought leaders, showing up as subject matter experts? Those are initiatives women don't take. And they always say, I'm too busy. I remember as an immigrant to the United States, the first job I got, I applied for the newspaper and I got a newspaper ad-based job. That was years ago before all of this internet explosion. But I promised myself I will not go through this process ever again. Next job I get, somebody's going to call me and say, come work for me. So I intentionally worked towards that. And one of the things I did is public speaking, showing up at conferences, presenting my experiences, writing to publish, and getting into classrooms and teaching. What would help women do those things? Because then you're not bragging. You're sharing the knowledge, you're sharing the expertise, and you're showing up in your power. The feeling is different. How can we help women do those things so that it is a natural extension of who they are and not having to think about how do I toot my honor, how do I brag, but how do I share how other people can leverage the same success?
One of the best ways, you know, that I've seen and found is to really start to reframe the dialogue that we have in our brains. So I love what you just said because it's reframing. So say you want to apply to speak at an event, right? It's reframing it from, oh, will this be, how will I come off? Do I really have enough knowledge to share? This is uncomfortable. Will I score well? Will I not score well? Will I forget what I'm saying? You know, all those things, all those doubts, and reframing to look at it exactly what you just said. What can I speak about that I know frontwards and backwards? What am I a thought leader on? What subject? What do I have to share that other, not just women, but other people in the industry would want to know about? And getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's one of the biggest things that I've seen with the women on my team is doing that first presentation internally, right? I remember years ago, I had a woman on my team who was terrified of even presenting in a room of her peers, you know, and she broke down during the presentation. She couldn't even get through it because she was so nervous. And I'm not saying this is specific to women. This can happen to men as well. But I made her do it. And then afterwards, we talked about it and we said, what could, you know, what went wrong? You had the information, you knew what you were supposed to say. And she said, I was just so scared of saying something wrong. So I'd say practice, practice, practice. Practice by yourself, practice with a friend, practice with a coworker, but do the hard things. Do the hard things that you're uncomfortable with, because over time you become comfortable and then they're not the hard things anymore. So I think starting small is a great way to go. So start with, if you're more comfortable with writing, start with a blog. If you're more comfortable with people and having conversations like this, start with a podcast. Start with just practice. And also really start to reframe those conversations that you have with yourself. At some point, you just have to say, get over it. Get over it. Try it, go for it, mess up, fail. That's something that earlier in my career I had a really hard time doing, which was failure. And saying I don't know to something or looking like I was dumb. But I think you get used to it over time if you make a mistake. So I think starting small, reframing those thoughts that you have, and then also really just, I mean, I hate to say this, but sucking it up and go for it. Really do the hard thing, make a decision, and surround yourself with people who are going to build you up, and who are going to give you that support and give you that feedback, whether it's constructive criticism or praise. Surround yourself with those people who you can count on.
This is really amazing. It's to me, it's a lot of the foundations of what you're talking about is just what goes on between our ears.
Yeah.
You know, our mental state, our mindset. Do we have a mindset of, hey, I can be confident, or I'm going to pretend to be confident if I'm not confident? You know, I'm willing to make a mistake. I'm willing to look stupid, and I, you know, maybe will look smarter than what I think I am. All of these things that allow us to step forward and step into discomfort. I'm really loving everything that you're saying, because it can apply to everything across the board. With every interview, the time just zips right by, and we have a few minutes left, but we want to know, how can people get a hold of you if they want more information? And we'd love to hear just some final thoughts, just some nuggets for women in general or women into fraud prevention, just some final nuggets on women connecting, women networking, women lifting each other up.
Yeah, definitely. So you can always find me on LinkedIn under my name, Mandy Moody. You can also find me on the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners website. And you can find my email and everything you need there. I'm very active on LinkedIn, which I'll segue into one of my nuggets, which is be available and open for that networking. You know, this happened today because Robin, you posted in the community group asking who started this group, you know, who could I talk to? And I, you know, was very excited to reply and say, me. You know, it wasn't me, it was a group of people, but I would say be active on those networks, be active on LinkedIn, be open to those relationships, be open to having coffee with somebody, having a meeting with somebody, and being able to contribute and be open to what you can help them with, and also what they can help you with. I would also say, and I just, you know, said this a little bit in what we were just talking about, but, you know, find your allies, build those allyships. You know, we read a book called How Women Rise by Sally Helgeson, which really spurred a lot of the women's initiatives at the ACFE. And it was about and I've spoken about some of them today, you know, just about psychologically the data behind why women think the way they do and why men think the way they do. And part of it was, one of the suggestions she had was to find those allies and build that group within your organization, and even outside. And that's men and women. You know, find the people who are going to brag for you, who are going to celebrate you with you and for you and to other groups. Find those people who, when you're working on joint projects and you know, massive 2-3 year long investigations, who are going to be right there with you, and being candid and open and vulnerable and honest, so that you can work through things more quickly. But find those people, connect with those people, and also, I would say, be very open to recognizing development in other people. I'm where I'm at today because somebody not just saw something in me, but promoted me, believed in me, gave me resources, helped me get better. And I'm hoping I do that for my team members now, but I would say, almost over communicate when you see things like that and when you meet people, and go that extra mile with networking and forming those relationships.
Thank you so much, Mandy. Time absolutely flies, Robin. This has been a wonderful conversation. And thank you for making the time to talk to Robin and I, Mandy. And to our audience out there, you heard Mandy's words. Find people you can build allyship with. Research shows that we are the average of the 5 people we surround ourselves with. Who are we surrounding ourselves with? What is the conversation happening that in that 5 people circle? Is that serving you? Is that expanding you? Is that positioning you to becoming who you want to be? Or is it dragging you down and taking you to a place where you used to be and you're trying to rise above? Who are your allies? How are they giving you the buoyancy to rise? Those are the questions to ask. And in that process of asking those questions, find those right people. And if you approach them right, they will make time for you. And as you rise up and other women and men pull you up, be sure to take a few people with you. Because your success is not just in you figuring things out and delivering goals. Because if you're too good at what you do and you haven't built your succession plan, you're not going to go anywhere because they need you and there's no replacement. So be very mindful that your success is also in taking other people along for it, so that people know that your leadership includes the succession plan. And with your succession plan, that lifts you up instead of you trying to push your way up. And with that nugget of wisdom that Mandy very nicely shared, we wish you all the best, and go out there and build your allies and rise up.